Have you ever tried your best, given your whole heart to something, and still felt like it was not good enough? In life, we all want to be accepted. We want to be loved for who we are. But sometimes, we meet people who make us feel like we need to change. They make us feel like our true self is not the right self. This is a story about that feeling. It is a story about trying to be the perfect person for someone and losing yourself in the process. I would like to ask you, how much should we change for the people we love? Please share your thoughts in the comments. My name is Grace, and I was in love with a man who always wanted more than I could give. Before I met Ethan, my life was simple, and I was happy with it. I worked as a librarian in my small town's library. I loved the quiet, the smell of old books, and the feeling of helping a child find their first favorite story. My world was not big or exciting, but it was warm, and it was mine. I had a small group of close friends. We would meet for coffee and talk for hours. I loved to bake. My small apartment was always filled with the sweet smell of cookies and cakes. I was a quiet person, and I was happy with my quiet life. I felt like I was enough. Then I met Ethan. He was new in town, a successful businessman who worked for a big company. He was ambitious, confident, and he had a clear vision for his future. He was like a bright, fast-moving star, and I was a quiet little planet. I did not think he would even notice me, but he did. He said he loved my calm energy. He said my kindness was a beautiful and rare thing in this world. He made me feel so special. He would bring me lunch at the library. He would listen to me talk about my favorite books. He made me feel seen, and I fell in love with him, completely. I thought he loved me for who I was. We moved in together after 6 months, and that is when things started to change. The change was slow, and his words were always gentle. So at first I did not see it as criticism. It started with my hobbies. One weekend I was baking a cake. He came into the kitchen and smiled. "That's a sweet hobby, Grace," he said. "But you are so smart. Have you ever thought about doing something more productive? We could take a business class together." I was a little hurt. I loved baking. But I thought, maybe he is right. Maybe I should be more ambitious. So I baked less. Then it was my clothes. I loved my soft, comfortable dresses. He started buying me new clothes. They were beautiful, expensive, and professional. Sharp suits, high heels, and structured dresses. "I want the world to see how amazing you are," he would say. "These clothes show your potential." I wanted him to be proud of me, so I wore the new clothes. They were not comfortable. They did not feel like me. But I wore them for him. Slowly, everything I was, everything I loved, became a subject for his helpful suggestions. My quiet friends were nice, but not very driven. My love for old romantic movies was a bit childish. My dream of one day opening a small bookstore cafe was a sweet idea, but not a serious career. Each suggestion was a small cut. And with each cut, a little piece of the real me bled away. I was so busy trying to become the woman I thought he wanted, the better version of myself. I was changing every part of my life, my personality, my dreams, all to get his approval, all to finally hear him say, "You are perfect. You are enough." But he never said it. There was always something new to improve. And the happy, quiet girl who loved books and baking was slowly disappearing. The next year of my life was a performance. I was playing the part of the woman I thought Ethan wanted. I left my job at the quiet, comfortable library. Ethan helped me get a new job in marketing at a big company. The work was fast, competitive, and stressful. I was not very good at it, but I worked hard, staying late every night. I wanted to make him proud. I wanted to be the ambitious, successful woman he deserved. My life became a long list of things to improve. I read the business books he gave me. I went to the gym every day, not because I enjoyed it, but because he said it was important to be strong and disciplined. I learned to talk about the stock market. I learned the names of important artists. I learned how to be the perfect hostess at his dinner parties, smiling and talking to his important friends, always saying the right thing. I was so busy being this new, better version of Grace that I did not have time to be myself. My baking pans collected dust in a cabinet. My library card expired. My old friends stopped calling because I was always too busy for them. I thought that if I did everything right, if I finally became this perfect woman, he would finally be happy with me. But there was always something more. I would get a promotion at work, and he would say, "That's great, honey. The next step is to become a manager." I would successfully host a dinner party, and he would say, "It was very nice. Next time, let's invite the CEO." I was running a race, but every time I reached the finish line, he would move it further away. And I was so tired. The sad feeling in my heart grew bigger. I was living a perfect life, but I was more unhappy than I had ever been. The turning point came when we went to my hometown for my mother's 60th birthday party. It was the first time I had been home in almost a year. Walking into my parents' small, warm house was like stepping into a different world. It was a world where I did not have to perform. My mother hugged me, and she held me for a long time. She looked into my eyes and said, "It is so good to see you, my dear, but you look so tired. I miss your old, easy smile." Her words were so full of love, and they made my heart ache. The party was full of my family, my old friends, the people who had known me my whole life. They were not interested in my new job or my expensive dress. They asked, "Grace, have you baked your famous lemon cake for your mother?" They asked about my old friends. They asked about me. For a few hours, I felt like the old Grace again. I laughed a real laugh. I felt warm. I felt loved for just being me. Ethan was polite to everyone, but I could see the look in his eyes. He thought my simple, happy family was unimpressive. He thought my small town was a place to escape from, not a place to call home. The truth came on the car ride back to the city. I was quiet, thinking about my mother's words. Ethan was looking at the road. "Your family is very sweet, Grace," he said, his voice calm and matter-of-fact. "It's good to be reminded of where you came from. It really shows how much you have grown this past year. You have come so far." He thought he was giving me a compliment, but what I heard was the terrible, hidden truth. He did not see me as a partner he was growing with. He saw me as a project he was fixing. He had found a simple, broken thing, and he was proud of how he had improved it. In that moment, my heart did not just break. It became cold and clear. He had never loved me. Not the real me, the quiet librarian who loved to bake. He loved the idea of me, the potential he saw to mold me into his perfect wife. All my work, all my changes, all my sacrifice. It was not for us. It was for him. I had erased myself, piece by piece, for a man who did not even see the person I truly was. We drove the rest of the way in silence. When we walked into our beautiful, perfect apartment, it did not feel like my home. It felt like the office of the man who had tried and failed to rebuild me. The perfect, beautiful apartment was a cage, and I had finally seen the bars. After our trip home, I was a different person. The part of me that was always trying to please Ethan, the part that was always looking for his approval, was gone. I was quiet, but it was not a sad quiet anymore. It was a thoughtful quiet. I was watching him, and I was watching myself, and I was making a plan. Ethan noticed the change, of course. He would ask, "Grace, are you okay? You seem distant." But he was not asking about my feelings. He was like an engineer looking at a machine that was not working perfectly. He was not worried about the machine. He was worried about its function. I would just smile and say, "I'm just tired, Ethan." I stopped trying to impress him. I stopped performing. I was just waiting for the right moment to bring the real Grace back to life. My quiet rebellion started in the kitchen. For a year, our kitchen had been a clean, perfect space. We ate healthy, simple meals that Ethan approved of. One afternoon, while he was at work, I went to the store. I bought flour, sugar, lemons, and butter. I went back to the apartment, and I baked a cake. My famous lemon cake. The kitchen was soon a happy mess of flour and bowls, and the whole apartment, his perfect, sterile apartment, was filled with the warm, sweet, real smell of baking. It was the smell of my old life. It was the smell of me. When Ethan came home, he stopped in the doorway of the kitchen. He had a look of confusion on his face. "What is all this?" he asked. "It's a cake," I said, smiling a real smile for the first time in months. "It's a bit messy, isn't it?" he said. "I thought we were focused on more important things." I did not say anything. His words just confirmed the truth I already knew. My plan became clear. A few days later, I called one of my old friends from the library. I was so nervous, but she was so happy to hear from me. I told her I was in trouble. I asked if I could stay with her for a little while. "Of course," she said, without any hesitation. "Your room is always here." The warmth in her voice was a reminder of what real love felt like. It was not about improving a person. It was about accepting them. That evening, I waited for Ethan to come home. I did not pack a suitcase with his expensive clothes. I just put my few real things into a small bag. When he walked in, I was standing in the living room, waiting for him. I was not wearing one of his power dresses. I was wearing my own simple clothes. "I'm leaving, Ethan," I said. My voice was not loud. It was not angry. It was just calm and true. He looked at me, confused. "Leaving? What are you talking about? Are you not feeling well? We have the charity dinner on Friday." He was not listening. He was just looking at his schedule. "I am not going to the dinner, Ethan," I said. "I am going home, to my own life." The confusion on his face finally turned to anger. "After everything I have done for you," he said, his voice getting louder. "I gave you a better life. I made you a better person." "No," I said, and my voice was stronger than his. "You did not make me a better person. You tried to make me a different person. You tried to make me your perfect woman. But I was already a person before I met you. A happy person. I may not have been good enough for you, Ethan. And I have finally realized that is okay. Because you are not good enough for me." I looked around the perfect, expensive room. "You can keep all of this," I said. "Your perfect apartment, your perfect clothes, your perfect life." I walked to the door. I did not look back. "The only thing I want," I said, opening the door, "is to be enough for myself again." I stepped out of the apartment and closed the door on the beautiful cage. I was leaving a life of wealth and success. I was walking into a future that was unknown and scary. But for the first time in a very long time, I felt like I was walking in the right direction. I felt like I was walking back home, to myself. The first few weeks of my new life were a strange mix of scary and wonderful. I stayed with my friend in her small, cozy apartment that was full of mismatched furniture and laughter. It was the complete opposite of Ethan's perfect, silent home, and it felt more like home than that place ever did. I had to start my life over from the beginning. I had very little money and no job. But for the first time in a long time, I was not afraid. I was excited. The future was a blank page, and for the first time, I was the one holding the pen. I needed a job, so I went back to the place that felt like my real home, the library. My old position was taken, but they had a part-time opening. I took it immediately. The moment I walked back into that quiet, peaceful space and breathed in the wonderful smell of old paper and stories, I felt a part of my soul come back to me. The work was simple, it was quiet, and it was mine. I found a tiny apartment that I could afford. It was on top of an old bakery, and my small kitchen window looked out onto a little garden. It was nothing like Ethan's penthouse, but it was my sanctuary. I filled it with secondhand books, with comfortable chairs, and with the smell of baking. I started to bake again, every weekend. I baked for my friends, for my neighbors, for myself. With every cake I made, with every friend I laughed with, I was slowly, carefully, rebuilding the person I used to be. I was finding grace again. I learned that happiness was not in a big, fancy apartment or in an important, stressful job. Happiness, for me, was in the quiet moments. It was the feeling of a good book in my hands. It was the warmth of the sun on my face. It was the joy of sharing a simple, delicious meal with people who loved me for exactly who I was. I was no longer trying to be a better, more impressive version of myself. I was just myself. And it was more than enough. One day, about a year after I left, I was having coffee with my friend. She told me she had seen Ethan. He was in a magazine, at a big, important event. He was with a new woman, a successful lawyer who looked very serious and ambitious. My friend was looking at me, worried about how I would feel. I just smiled. I felt no pain, no jealousy. I just felt a quiet, deep sense of peace. He had found the woman he wanted to create, and I was so happy that it was not me. I was free. I was never enough for him. I used to think those words were a sad story about my failure. But now I know the truth. They are not a sad story. They are a happy one. I was never enough for him, because he was not the right person for me. True love does not try to change you into something you are not. True love helps you become more of who you already are. I had to lose myself completely to finally understand what it meant to love myself, and that is the greatest love story of all. If you believe in the importance of being true to yourself, please give this video a like. What does being enough mean to you? Share your beautiful thoughts in the comments below. For more emotional stories in English that will help you learn and feel, please be sure to follow our channel.